Now I want to talk about a lesser known fraudster named Kyle Sandler.
Kyle Sandler. I'm not familiar with him either.
Kyle was born in Maryland, but really the story gets started in Opelika, Alabama.
Uh-huh.
Shows up in Opelika in 2014, and he wants to start up a business incubator, right? So if anyone that's not familiar, it's basically you have like a big office space where new entrepreneurs can come work. You provide mentoring for them. Basically, they want to incorporate. You can provide them all the documents they need. You can teach them about business, stuff like that.
So you said a business incubator?
Incubator, yeah.
Oh, I guess that makes sense. I can see the
now
parallels.
The reason he chose Opelika is because Opelika was the first city in Alabama to get gigabit internet. Mm-hmm. And I guess it was also, it's not a small town, but it's not a big city either, right? And he probably knew that people here weren't used to big businessmen, right? I'm guessing.
I mean, I've been to Opelika. They're probably still not.
Right. Well, I mean, it's a nice place to live.
Yeah.
It's basically it's really close to Auburn, Alabama. If anyone is wondering, it's really part of the same metro area as Auburn. But at any rate, he calls his incubator the Roundhouse, and he actually got the city council to give them their first year of the gigabit internet for free.
Uh-huh.
Which, it's pretty good little.
Is that just sort of an enticement to get a new business there?
Yeah. I guess he's pitching it to the city council, and they wanted his business there, right? Now, he claimed to have been one of the early Google employees.
He claimed to be?
Claimed to be. Okay. And he said he made a lot of money from Google, and that's where he got his money to get into these startups and everything. And
so he was pretending to be much wealthier than he was.
Yeah, this man was not wealthy at all.
Okay.
He was broke, but he pretended to be a millionaire. And he also said that he'd had some other startups and made really good exits from them. Just he sold
basically
at the right
sold
point.
them off.
Yeah, at the right point and made a lot of money. But nobody in Opelika ever tried to verify any of that. They just believed him, right? Because you know what? I mean, it's a small town. You're not used to people breezing in and telling a bunch of lies about this stuff.
Right.
Especially this guy that seems to know what he's talking about. Now, what he does is he starts going around town and getting investors. I think he's selling one share of stock for about $10,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
One share?
One share. At the time, there's probably, there weren't supposed to be so many shares. It'll be splits later on.
Right.
So that's what you have to assume. And
so that was just the buying price for the
and he talks it
investment.
Up, man. He talks it up, and he's targeting older people that had money, but they really didn't know anything about tech.
Right.
It sounded like a good investment,
So he convinced them this was going to be some sort of like huge tech startup.
Yeah.
In Opelika, Alabama.
Yeah, it's going to be a huge deal.
I mean, Opelika, Silicon Valley.
Well, he said he was going to make Opelika the Silicon Valley of the East.
Did he now?
His exact words.
Okay.
That was at least what someone said in an interview that he said. I didn't hear it straight from Kyle's mouth.
Now, go big or go home, I guess.
Yeah, right. And he does. He gets a lot of entrepreneurs to come in and start doing work in the Roundhouse.
And a lot of these are like legit startups.
Oh yeah, no, these are. I mean, I'm not saying they're going to be successful or anything, but these are legit people that are trying to start business.
Because thus far, this seems like a legitimate business venture.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that it couldn't have worked out if he had just done things a little bit better. But he did lie to a bunch of people, though.
Right.
Especially about his experience and his own personal wealth. Now,
I mean, that having money and experience, that opens doors that just would not otherwise be open to you.
Right. And something else that opened a lot of doors for him is someone who came to do work in the Roundhouse, John McAfee, founder of McAfee Antivirus.
One of the most insane, I say on the planet, not anymore.
Not anymore. No, he is.
I mean, now that guy, we could do an episode on.
Yeah, I was thinking that we should do one
drug
on him,
running,
actually. Murder. Yeah, John McAfee is quite the character.
Libertarian presidential candidate.
Yeah, and according to Kyle, he says he actually gave him the idea to run for president.
My God.
Yeah, no way to verify to this point because McAfee's
honestly,
dead.
that could go either way.
Right.
As insane as John McAfee was, I mean, he could have just woken up one day and decided, hey, president, that seems like a fun job. Yeah. Let's do that.
So yeah, I'm glad she did a good job in introducing McAfee because I had written down here eccentric, pretty crazy.
Eccentric. That's one word for it.
He also believed in a lot of government conspiracies.
This dude,
like, he thought the government was out to get everybody, which I mean, maybe he was right.
Maybe he was right. Who knows? They were definitely out to get him because he was like millions of dollars in arrears in taxes. So
yeah, he was implicated in a murder in Belize.
He was ideologically opposed to paying.
Yeah, he definitely was. Then when Tennessee was actually trying to extradite him back to the States from Spain in order, on his tax evasion charges, when he killed himself in a Spanish jail cell. That's what happened to John McAfee.
Killed himself.
Yeah.
I mean, he probably really
did.
This isn't Epstein.
Let's not get into the Epstein theories. At any rate, it seems like John McAfee actually gave him more credibility, even though I'm not sure that he should have.
I mean, think about it. Like, what year was this?
2014 is when he started up.
Shit, John was already a crazy person by then.
Yeah,
but I don't think his escapades were really that thoroughly cataloged at that point. So I think it'd be really easy for someone like John McAfee to give you a lot of clout.
Yeah, no, I would say so. And John McAfee's actually working on a business at the Roundhouse. Then he starts up his presidential campaign while he's in Opelika, basically running it from the Roundhouse as well.
That's the best thing that ever happened to this guy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was a big deal. It was a big deal for the Roundhouse, and he was getting a lot more investors. So, right. It was estimated by prosecutors later on that he had solicited more than $1.8 million in investments.
Jesus. And was that considered fraudulent?
Well, yeah, because it was built on lies.
False pretenses, yeah.
Now, the city of Opelika actually created a Kyle Sandler Day as well.
I'm assuming this is before they discovered the fraud?
Oh, yeah, definitely before. Hey, give me 1 second. I can't see my damn scroll bar here.
I mean, unless it's like a day where they all just get together, just go like spit on the ground or something.
Maybe they do that now. I don't know, but that would be a good idea. Maybe he brought this joke won't work. Sorry, I can't say that.
Okay.
I was going to say maybe he brought the town back together and they could make a statue of him, kind of like the boll weevil in Enterprise.
I can see that.
Enterprise, Alabama is a town.
Like I can see why you didn't tell the joke.
No, but I want to tell them because there's actually something really interesting about this. The Enterprise, Alabama is this town. The entire South back in the early 1900s, they grew cotton, and the economy was decimated by the boll weevil. It's a bug that kills cotton plants, right? So Enterprise credited this boll weevil with allowing them to diversify their economy and start growing peanuts and other crops and stuff. And now they sort of like, I won't say they worship the boll weevil, but they have a big statue in the middle of the town of the boll weevil, right? They love this boll weevil. So there's a McDonald's in Enterprise that just put out a Ronald McDonald / boll weevil statue. It's like a boll weevil dressed up like Ronald McDonald, and it's creepy as hell.
I don't even know what to say to that.
Yeah, it is insane. It's McWeevil. Anyway, you can cut that out if you want to, but I thought it was pretty interesting. McWeevil.
Okay. No, I think I'll keep the McWeevil.
Yeah, well, you should put a picture of that in, man. If you can,
I'll find it.
And okay. Because that thing is creepy. I would not pull into that McDonald's if I didn't know what was going on right there. It's weird. So at any rate, they created the Kyle Sandler Day, but didn't deserve it. But his prized inventor at the Roundhouse was not McAfee. It's this 13-year-old kid named Taylor Rosenthal.
Okay.
And Taylor...
Please tell me he doesn't exploit the brilliance of a 13-year-old kid.
I'm not going to say the kid was really brilliant. I mean, the kid had some good ideas, but the idea was
he just convincing the kid that he had good ideas?
Well, I mean, it wasn't a bad idea, but he was convincing the kid that the idea was amazing when it wasn't, it wasn't what he was billing it to be, right?
Right.
So Taylor comes up with an idea for a vending machine for first aid supplies, basically. But it really was a new idea at the time. These things existed already.
Oh, did they? Okay.
But But Kyle is like making a big deal of this. He came up with this revolutionary new idea, right? That, like Six Flags was going to buy a bunch of these units to, vend, first aid stuff. If, somebody need first aid at the park or something like that.
Seems to me if you need first aid at a Six Flags, it's probably going to be a little worse than some cuts and bruises.
Well, I mean, you could fall and scrape your knee or something, but.
I suppose so. I'm thinking like bigger.
Yeah. Yeah. Now that's making me think about that
horrific video.
Yeah,
let's not talk about that.
Let's not get into that. Yeah. Whew. That was sad.
That was hard to watch.
Yeah. I didn't want to get on the subject of something happened to kids in this one. So let's go back to this. But at any rate, and he got a lot of media attention for this, right? He was saying this is going to be a big multi-million-dollar invention. He called the company RecMed. And Kyle gets him a lot of media attention. He gets a lot of attention online with social media. Mm-hmm. And the news stations start picking this up and reporting on this this new, local 13-year-old kid that's the next up-and-coming entrepreneur. And it just takes off because it's a good story.
Oh, yeah,
isn't
of
it,
course.
right?
That's the kind of things that media outlets eat up, man. Puff pieces on young kids.
And suddenly, he's getting national attention.
Does that mean a lot of investment capital too?
To the Roundhouse.
I'm guessing it doesn't make it to, what was that company,
RecMed. No, technically, how that's supposed to work with these incubators, I guess, is the Roundhouse is supposed to supply him what he needs. So people invest in the Roundhouse, and the Roundhouse has a percentage.
So
of RecMed.
What he's doing right now is he's created like a junior Bill Gates, effectively.
Of the vending machine
for media, that getting media attention to it.
Yeah.
Creating like what was her name? Like an Elizabeth Holmes effect.
Yeah,
right?
like an Elizabeth Holmes effect, really.
But he's using this kid instead of himself.
Yeah, he is. And Taylor is like going to, conferences and speaking. Like he's on like national news media and he's telling everybody how he turned down a $30 million offer for RecMed. And that's when people get suspicious of a 13-year-old kid turning down $30 million for his, like, they didn't even have a working prototype.
Like an idea.
It was an idea. They didn't have a working machine or anything.
Well, when he says he turned down $30 million, does he believe that he turned down $30 million?
He did at the time. That is we know now Kyle just made that up. Just told him someone offered $30 million and advised him not to take it. Yeah. And Taylor was saying, on the news that, his magic number is 50 million. That's what he'd take for it.
Right.
Yeah. But the media loved
for
Taylor.
An idea without even a working prototype.
Yep. Exactly. Now, like I said, people get suspicious.
Yeah.
And obviously Kyle had fabricated that. I mean, obviously now. People didn't know it at the time. But moving on there, people are already suspicious, right? And in 2016, Kyle opens up a second Roundhouse in Mobile, Alabama.
Okay.
And he starts spending a lot of time there and away from Opelika.
Okay.
Wonder why.
Yeah.
It coincidentally comes at the same time that the investors starting to have a lot of questions for him.
He just happened to be somewhere else at the time.
Yeah, because he hasn't made any profits yet. No profits yet on the Roundhouse.
Even with all the media attention he got for the kid, they didn't rack in a lot of money for the company.
Well, I mean, investments.
Like usually when you get that sort of attention,
you're getting investments. Yeah, but you're not getting profits. Investments aren't profit, right?
Okay, fair enough.
It's basically, again, this is working like a Ponzi scheme kind of, right? You're getting investments, but there's no money coming in. Now, I will say for an incubator like that, you usually don't expect money to come in that early unless,
Yeah, because you have to have, a business has to have an idea.
Yeah, get out there. You have to get started, right? To actually start making profit.
Like that seems like a long-term business model.
But from what I can understand, he really didn't explain that to his small-town investors that way.
He wanted money now, so he convinced them they were going to get money quickly.
Yeah, exactly. And they're having questions like, you haven't shown any profits. No money has come in.
So while he started this new one in Mobile, has the media attention around this, the new Wonderkin, has that died down some?
No, Taylor's still getting attention, but but the problem is that just you have people asking questions, and a lot of that is being suspicious that they didn't take the $30 million.
Yeah.
For RecMed, because that would have paid those investors a lot of money. Right. Now,
I didn't think about that. They had to be really upset that they turned down $30 million.
Yeah, I would be. Right. Now, eventually, Kyle just says, you know what? I'm going to buy everybody out. I'm going to buy all the investors.
Okay.
because he's a wealthy businessman, right?
Right.
He can do that. And he says
That's what wealthy businessmen do, sir.
He says what he has to do is he has to wait for his annuity that year because he put all his money from Google in an annuity and he got $1 million every year from it because he didn't want to risk just blowing through all of it.
Okay. Seems reasonable.
So they had to wait for the date his annuity would come through so he get his $1 million, he could buy everybody out.
Okay.
Well, that day keeps getting closer and closer.
And let's just, to repeat, right, to make sure everybody's caught up here, there is no Google money, right? He made that up, the whole.
Complete fabrication. He never worked for Google.
Okay. So it's reasonable to suspect there is no Google annuity.
No Google annuity either.
Okay.
He actually fabricated a document showing all his investments for the annuity to show to a couple of his like higher up employees.
Right.
And one of them called him on it and said, like, I saw you photoshopping this crap.
So they weren't fooled?
Well, not at that point because they saw it. And that's really when it starts to come out that this is not working. And
so he tried to. Did he even know what that sort of document should look like?
no, he knew. This guy, you find out later, he's been committing fraud for a long time.
Okay.
So, but yeah, he had a good idea of what it should look like. It's just happened that somebody walked up on him photoshopping the Fidelity emblem on the top of the page because he knows how to fake stuff, but he doesn't know how to go in a private room with his laptop.
I mean, it seems like you putting all this thought into it. You could close a door behind you, right?
You'd think so, right? But he was up against everything. He'd been under a lot of stress at the time, and
I guess screwing people out of millions of dollars is hard work.
Well, when they're coming after you for their money, it is. Yeah. And so Kyle, after that, he basically comes in to the roundhouse and tells everybody, "I'm shutting it down. There's no more money. I don't have money to run this anymore." Everything's over. And
I'm sure everybody just forgave and forgot, right?
Oh, I mean, all the entrepreneurs are just like tore up about it because they have these businesses they're working on. And everything's just gone.
But what about the investors?
Well, the investors
furious.
Were very upset. But the next day, when the investors come to the roundhouse to see Kyle about this, Kyle's nowhere to be found. He's skipped town.
Okay.
Now, obviously, at the point he skips town, law enforcement gets involved and they contact the FBI. And the FBI, when they start looking into him, find out that he has committed just all kinds of fraud in the past.
You mean he never worked at Google?
Never worked at Google. He's been forging checks. He was getting loans under false identities.
Okay.
Just crazy crap like that. It was nothing on the level of this, obviously, but he had committed a lot of fraud. And
I've never heard of this guy before either.
No, he's not as big a deal as some of the others we're talking about, especially the next one we'll get to in just a few minutes.
Okay.
But they ended up finding Kyle a couple years later in Texas. And there's in the Generation Hustle episode about Kyle, there's footage of the cops approaching him, and his wife comes up, and they're explaining to his wife, about this man's, a fraudster, serial fraudster.
Does she have any idea?
Had no idea about it, and she also didn't have any idea. See, Kyle was married to 3 women at one time.
Oh my God!
Like he would marry someone, and then he'd end up skipping town and never bothered divorcing them. So this was his 3rd marriage. And
well, at least he stayed busy.
Yeah. All that fraud, didn't have time for divorces, right? So
she couldn't have been happy.
No, she was pretty upset about that. I imagine, Anyway, I hate to laugh. A lot of people lost money on this. But it's hilarious.
It's so ridiculous.
It's just so ridiculous that this happened. But yeah, in 2018, he pled guilty to 2 charges of fraud. He was sentenced to 63 months in prison, but he was released early in February of 2022, living in a halfway house now.
So please tell me that he doesn't go back into defrauding.
I don't know.
people.
He just got out. Like this was just like less than a month ago he got out. So it's hard to say. But
he wasn't quite as audacious as the first guy, but entertaining nonetheless. I mean, creating the mini Elizabeth Holmes.
Oh, yeah.
To get all the media attention for you. That That's a nice touch.
He was smart about it, right? He does claim, though, he wasn't actually trying to commit fraud here. He says he was trying to honestly run an incubator, and he wanted to run the Roundhouse like a real business.
Just with lies and deceit.
Well, just with lies and deceit about his money and stuff. And he says he does admit that he was using some bad business practices when he did that, though.
Oh, that's an admission.
One of which is he was basically just using the company accounts as his own piggy bank, in his own words. I mean, this guy was buying fancy cars and all kinds of crap with that money. So, that's more than bad business to me.
Yeah.
That's fraud. That's fraud.
Yeah, I think that qualifies, yes.
But yeah, and
no, to be fair to him though, early in the story, it does seem like a legitimate business venture.
No, it does. And I mean,
other than the lying to investors to get the money quicker.
I guess it could have been. Yeah, I'd say a lot of cases of fraud, could have become legitimate businesses, but they just because you lost people a lot of money, you get in trouble for it, right?
Right.
But you can't lie to people about this stuff. Now, one final note I'd like to add about this is there were multiple people in that they were interviewed for the for the Generation Hustle episode.
Mm-hmm.
They said that they should have known because his favorite show was American Greed. He just watched it all the time.
I'm not familiar with that actually.
It's just a
sounds
show.
appropriate.
Yeah, it's just a show about people who defrauded other people and con people, basically. So yeah, there's tons of seasons of it. I think I've watched several. I think it's on Peacock. But yeah, you guys should check that out if you're into this kind of stuff. But yeah, that's Kyle Sandler.
Okay, like I said, not as audacious as the first guy, but again, the whole creating the young wonderkid entrepreneur to raise money, that's a good touch. It's
a good touch, and just the fact that he breezed into this small Alabama town,
turned it upside down.
Yeah, turned upside down. I mean, he didn't ruin Opelika. Opelika's a nice place still,
right.
But yeah, it's a crazy story.
If you enjoyed this segment from the Fact and Suspicion podcast and want to hear more, you can find the full episode here on YouTube, on iTunes, Spotify, or just about anywhere else you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening.